What's up, guys? It's Max Mosley, and I am here to bring you some fake news debunking. Here's a little image I'm working on right now. The great meme war. Got the idea just by I was trying to find an image for the video, and 4 hours later, I ended up with this monstrosity, and I love it. And so I wanted to go over some fake news of the day, and it's some serious stuff that you guys have definitely heard about. The Trump campaign aides had repeated contacts with Russian intelligence. And so I'm not going to debunk this part right here. I'm going to debunk a few other things that I think are pretty key, and they're right here in the beginning of the story. So the first thing that I want to debunk is this part where it says American law enforcement and intelligence agencies intercepted the communications around the same time they were discovering evidence that Russia was trying to disrupt the presidential election by hacking into the DNC. So they are saying that they had discovered evidence. It's at the same time that they were discovering evidence as if they have this evidence now. Do they have this evidence now? Well, I found this Wired report. It's really difficult to find just them talking about if they have the evidence. They just say it as a matter of fact. So this person says, even so, the report leaves out, and this is the report of the 17 different agencies, 25-page report that was signed off by 17 different alphabet soup agencies. So this guy, the cybersecurity expert, says, even so, the report leaves out the much hoped for technical evidence that informed these conclusions. Now, the technical evidence is what WikiLeaks has with their glorious treasure trove of emails. Now, unfortunately, they haven't given this to us. So, continuing, in its scope and sourcing section, the report explains that this evidence exists, but it can't be declassified. And that means that the report won't satisfy the majority of the cybersecurity community that believes Russia hacked democratic targets, but has demanded more evidence, let alone will it quell the diehard deniers of the Kremlin's fingerprints, people like me. Seeing more of the context in which this happened does make me a little more trusting that this really was Russia, says Robert Graham, an analyst for the cybersecurity firm Eratasek, who has closely followed the Russian hacking investigation. And quote, but knowing what data they probably have, they could have given us more details, and that really pisses me off, end quote. So he says that basically they could have given them details without having to give up state secrets in doing so. And that's what pisses him off, because he knows there's a form of evidence that they could get that would satisfy them to be able to say, yes, this was Russian hacking, but they don't want to give it to him. They don't want to give you this. All these other leaks can come out. These leaks about Michael Flynn, that can come out. But not the evidence for this, that all of this is built upon, this whole delegitimization campaign. And speaking of Michael Flynn, something serious with that guy. Michael Flynn was investigated for the very thing that he just got fired for, which is, them talking about that they lost trust in him. This is from January 23rd, Washington Post, and it says that the FBI in late December reviewed intercepts of communications between the Russian ambassador to the United States and retired Lieutenant General Michael T. Flynn, national security advisor to then President-elect Trump, but has not found any evidence of wrongdoing or illicit ties to the Russian government, U.S. officials said. So they investigated him, they looked at these calls, and they didn't find any evidence of wrongdoing. But this war in the deep state is serious, and there's power plays going on, and he had to go. I'm not that crazy about him. He stood up to Obama. That's great. He kind of wanted to go to war with Iran, which is kind of ridiculous and pointless. There's no need to go to war with Iran. Iran hasn't done anything to us. They're more of a threat to Israel, but I think they've mostly been keeping to themselves besides their actions in Syria, and Syria as a whole different mess. Us, supporting ISIS. That's another thing Michael Flynn did, is that he was one of the people that came out and was like, hey, some of these groups that we're supporting is ISIS, so maybe we shouldn't be supporting that side anymore. and that put him on the wrong side of Obama, and he was ousted. Okay, two other things. But the intercepts alarmed American intelligence and law enforcement agencies in part because of the amount of contact that was occurring while Mr. Trump was speaking glowingly about the Russian President Vladimir Putin. So was Trump speaking glowingly about Putin? And I think we all know yes. The answer is yes. Donald Trump's campaign stands by embrace of Putin. But let's put it in context. What was he saying about Putin that he liked? Is he saying that he likes his human rights abuses? Did he say he likes his Sochi corruption? No. He says, I think it's inarguable that Vladimir Putin has been a stronger leader in his country than Barack Obama has been in this country. And that is a perfectly debatable statement. You can have a subjective view on that, but let's just go into a few facts here and see how that is. So here's something that Trump cares about quite a bit, and that's money. Billions of dollars. So this is Russia's GDP growth from 2006 to 2014. So you have $764 billion, and he raises that to over $2 trillion GDP growth. How did Obama do? Obama's on the negative side. This is from Bloomberg. On the negative side, while GDP growth has been positive for 25 of the past 27 quarters, the rate of growth under Obama has not been stellar. In fact, at 2.1%, it is the fourth lowest growth rate of any president's and below the post-war average of 2.9%. So let's look at some numbers. In 2008, it was $14.72 trillion. In 2014, it was 14 trillion, and so that is about a 1.2 times growth rate if you look at it that, but 2016 numbers is different. I couldn't find that easily. And with Putin's growth rate, it's about 3 times. It's pretty close to 3 times growth rate. So objectively, on the money, it looks like Putin has done a little bit better for his country. A lot of that is oil. A lot of that is being able to drill in Siberia with new techniques and such. So the other thing that they say here is that in this article is that the reason they have a problem with him speaking glowingly is because he's an authoritarian. Vlad the authoritarian. Apparently, Trump signaled a preference for the leadership of an authoritarian adversary. And an adversary is also debatable. They really shouldn't be an adversary. China's an adversary, but they're our biggest trading partner. But we don't go calling them adversaries like this. An authoritarian, well, let's look at a political compass. Who else is an authoritarian? Oh, yeah, Barack Obama is an authoritarian. Who knew? The New York Times didn't. That's for sure. Okay. And one more thing. At one point last summer, Mr. Trump said at a campaign event that he hoped Russian intelligence services had stolen Hillary Clinton's emails and would make them public. So he's making, and they link to something that is pretty damning, unless you find what I find. But I'm going to play you theirs. This is their video. They linked to
essentially negligent. But it would be interesting to see. I will tell you this. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
God damn.
I think you will probably be rewarded mightily by our press. I have nothing to do with
that, right? Well, not according to WikiLeaks. And also, this is a little deceptive as well, because
Russia,
you can go through the
Obama,
whole video.
You have a routine.
And it's just Russia.
Noted.
So he asked Russia, why doesn't he ask anybody else? Why is he just asking Russia? Well, he did ask other people, actually. So let me just play the full statement that he made real quick.
What do I have to get involved with Putin for? I have nothing to do with Putin. I've never spoken to him. I don't know anything about him other than he will respect me. He doesn't respect our president. And if it is Russia, which is probably not, nobody knows who it is. But if it is Russia, it's really bad for a different reason, because it shows how little respect they have for our country when they would hack into a major party and get everything. But it would be interesting to see. I will tell you this. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing.
I hope you're
I
able to
think
find
you
it.
will probably be rewarded mightily by our press. Let's see if that
Let's see.
happens. That'll be next. Yes, sir.
So he's making a joke out of it. On top of that, that's not the evidence that I have. The evidence that I have is right here.
Would delete or get rid of 33,000 emails.
Criminal act.
That gives me a big problem. After she gets a subpoena,
And sent
she
it
gets
to
subpoenaed,
third-party
and she gets rid of
non-governmental
33,000 emails. That gives me a
data
problem. Now,
wiping agency.
if Russia or China or any other country has those emails, I mean, to be honest with you, I'd love to see them.
If Russia or China or any other country has those emails, and you've seen it right here, this is this same press conference, and he says Russia or China or any other country. I'm going to let you listen to that again.
Subpoenaed, and she gets rid of 33,000 emails. That gives me a problem. Now, if Russia or China or any other country has those emails, I mean, to be honest with you, I'd love to see them.
And I'd love to see them, no matter what country brings them to the table. New York Times, you are lying by omission, and you are also peddling false evidence and false claims. And without proof of Russian hacking, none of this shit matters right here. And so I sentence you to three. I don't sentence you to anything. I'm not a judge. I'll let the people judge. This is the people's court. That's what journalism is. And I think I've provided something serious here that shows the New York Times is a place that is not to be trusted. Not to be trusted. And that's why we're in this meme war. Because there is real lives at stake. And real memes at stake, guys. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be with you next time I find some shit I need to debunk. Later, y'all. Appreciate you.